So let's start here at the Sublime website, which is sublime.app. Basically, it's a place to collect things that are inspiring and lay them out on kind of a digital mental workbench so you can make connections between the different things that you've collected and then eventually create something new out of them. And one of the things that makes Sublime interesting to me is that it's not just the things that you collect, but you can also see related items that other people who are interested in the same things as you have collected. So this isn't a bunch of AI recommendations. This is a collection of curated sources from other actual humans. Let's click this button to try Sublime. The first thing that you need to do when you sign up for Sublime is create an account. Now you can create an account using your email address, your username, and a password, or you can log in with a Google account or Apple. And so I'm going to use the Apple option here. The sign in with Apple pop-up appears. I'm going to share my email address in this case and continue with the password. Now this is the password that I use to log into my Mac, so I'll type that right here and click continue. Okay, and then it's going to take us to Sublime, and there's a couple of splash screens here which are going to get us started using this app. So let's click the Get Started button. Okay, the first thing we need to do is create a username, and I'm going to call it SCO Demo. Now you can upload a photo if you want. I'm going to choose one from my photos library here. I'll search for Mike Schmitz. And this is actually an AI image that was generated as an inside joke at the MaxDoc conference a couple of years ago. My wife referred to me as Captain Discipline, so I'll use this one. Okay, click Next. All right, and then there's an intro video here, which is going to walk us through how this works. I'm going to skip this for now, though. Okay, and the very first thing we need to do is to create an idea to start our library. Now we can paste the link here from the web, we can write something, or we can even upload a file like a PDF. I'm actually just going to write something real quick. So let's click on the Write button. Okay, here's the editor, and I'm just going to write a little bit about the whole topic of second brain. That seems to be pretty popular these days, but I think actually the idea of a second brain is most valuable as a resource for collecting things that inspire you, that you want to write about. You're going to make something new out of these component pieces. It's not just something that's interesting. And really the question that I struggle with is what good is all that inspiring stuff that you collect into your second brain if it's just going to sit there in a dusty digital filing cabinet inside of your PKM system? Okay, so there's our first idea. Click Save. And that is now a card in our library. Now, everything that's in Sublime is stored as one of these cards. Now, you can move these cards to different collections, but essentially these are just a bunch of cards that you can collect from different places, and then you can lay them out on a canvas and make connections between them. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. But you'll also see in the lower right corner that there are a couple of other steps that we need to do in order to finish setting up Sublime on our computer. This is a web app, and primarily we're going to be interacting with this on our web browser. However, there is also an iOS mobile app, which has a couple of interesting features. We're going to take a look at those in a little bit. But for now, let's just kind of work our way through this checklist. Now, the next thing on the checklist is to discover related items. And that is one of the killer features of Sublime, in my opinion. So let's click on this button in the checklist, which is going to highlight the button in the interface that we should use in order to do that. It's this button down here in the lower left corner of the card. And this gives us a couple of different options. We can see related ideas, and there's no limit on the number of related ideas that we can find. But there's also insights that we can unlock with the free version of Sublime that we are using currently. You can get those insights a couple of different ways. You can get the gist, you can explain it like M5, you can get a contrarian take, and you can get an analogy. So we'll come back to that in a bit. For now, let's click on the See Related Ideas button. Okay, now this takes our idea, puts it at the top there, and underneath this we have a Related tab, which shows all of the other ideas that have been captured to Sublime by other human users that it thinks are relevant based on the contents of the idea or card that we have captured. So here's one from Tiago Forte, who is the author of Building a Second Brain. This is a pretty good one, so let's click the plus button here to add this to our library. When we add it to our library, we have the ability to add a note, add it to a collection, make it a favorite, or mark it as private. I'm going to add a note here because Tiago Forte is the person who came up with the term second brain, so that makes him a credible source in my opinion. Okay, we get the notification in the upper right that that card has now been added to our library. Let's scroll down and look at some of these other ones. Okay, here's another one from Tiago Forte in the book Building a Second Brain. I'm going to skip that one for now because I already have one that's fairly similar already. The next one here is from someone named Jen on how to build a personal knowledge system that fuels your creativity. I like the ideas that she's sharing here, so let's add this one to the library. And again, let's add a note because I like the emphasis on creativity as part of the second brain process. I think that's a missing piece for a lot of people. Again, let's click Add to Library. And again, we get a notification in the upper right that this card now is saved to our library. Let's keep going here. Here's another card from Tiago Forte, Building a Second Brain. I'm going to skip that one. Here's one from someone named Daniel. It says, before building a second brain, build a connection with your gut. I like the idea of using intuition in the second brain process, so let's add this one. And again, let's add a note. Intuition is important. You have to decide what's worth keeping. Okay, and again, add to library. There's the notification that it's been added to our library. Now you'll also notice on this card in the upper right, there are a couple of icons. The one on the left we've seen before. That is the magic wand, which indicates that this is a related idea. But the one in the middle is this cherry, and this indicates that this is a staff pick, basically that a lot of people seem to like this. So we can hover over this, see that this is a staff pick, this is the related icon, and then the number on the right obviously shows how many people have saved that particular card. Okay, let's keep going. Here's one from David Epstein, Don't Let Good Ideas Get Away. This one looks promising as well. So again, let's click the plus button to add this to our library. I'm not going to create a note this time. And then there's another one here, Building a Knowledge Library for Creative Work. This looks like an AI generated summary, but there's a huge outline here. And if we click see more, we can see all of the information that's been added. Okay, now I don't think I want to use that one. I'm going to keep going here. Next, we've got the Complete Second Brain Blueprint for Business Leaders and Creators. That's a Substack article. Then there's this one here about most good material is forgotten. Another one from Tiago Forte from Building a Second Brain. One from The Unmistakable Creative. Your brain is a terrible place to store information. Then we've got another one here which references Tiago Forte as the creator of Building a Second Brain. And then we've got one here on the idea of the second brain is a methodology for systematically reminding us of the ideas, inspirations, insights, and connections we've gained. I'll skip that. Can a tool that treats notes as creative fuel turn every saved idea into a potential starting point for discovery and creation? I really like the idea of that, so let's save this card as well. If we scroll even further, you'll see that now we are at the bottom of the list here. So we've gone through all of the related ideas that tie back to that initial idea that we captured in our Sublime library. But now we've got several cards that we can play with. A couple other things you may have noticed on these cards. There's the 3 dots right here. This allows us to share the card or copy the text. And the share button right here gives us a link to that card that we can paste somewhere else. And then if we want to go back to the original card, there's icons up here at the top. So clicking this button, we can share this, copy the text. We can also edit this because this was our original card. We can add a note to this. We can add it to the collections, mark it as a favorite, make it private, or delete it. And again, the share button here allows us to copy the link to this card that we could paste somewhere else. Then the check mark right here is how we update this card. So clicking this, again, we get the little pop-up here where we can add more information to it if we want. So that is how you discover related ideas once you've captured something into Sublime. Hopefully you can start to see how powerful this can be in terms of ideation and discovering new ideas, but you do have to have something to work off of at the beginning. So you do have to add that first idea before you can really get to work with this.